graphics should be, and any phone that has to compete in that space has to compete on the level that people expect from the iPhone. Now, for me, Android has done that. Android has most definitely done that. I'm happy with my Android phone. Then Microsoft enter that market. They have no choice but to produce something that's on par, that stands on its own, because people generally, if they're going into a mobile phone store, they're picking up an iPhone, they're picking up an Android phone, they're picking up a Nokia with Symbian or whatever it is, they've changed it to this week. You know, they don't know about Android, or they don't know about Google, they don't know about Nokia, they don't know about the open, closed, anything like that. They don't know about operating systems. All they have is the devices in their hand. And they know that the iPhone's easy to use, Android is easy to use, they're both flashy, they're both functional, they've both got loads of features, loads of apps and things like that. And then they get to this Microsoft thing. And what does Microsoft say? Microsoft is the thing they fight with in their offices all day, that they have to reboot, that they get random crashes, that they get, that they're frightened to touch. That's what Microsoft is. And then they've got this phone, and it's got to stand by its own, you know. It has to stand on its own. And to me, I don't think Microsoft will ever cut it in the smartphone market. I really don't.
I think what they try and do now is the iPhone is an Apple-only thing. You can only get it in one size, one way, except if you use different versions of different iterations of the phones. But what happens now with Android, you've got all these companies that make phones in general, HTC and LG, and mostly the Asian companies. And Microsoft knows that all of them go for Android, and increasingly they cannot use the Microsoft one. And what happens is that Android becomes kind of like the Windows of the smartphone world. All the makers of phones that don't have access to Apple's operating systems, they would favor the Linux-based operating system. Now, what Microsoft is trying to do is to change the costs of the operating system. Microsoft could give away the mobile Windows operating system, whichever one it can be, the Keen or Windows Phone 7. But what it tries to do now is to ensure that Android is very expensive, or it's being barred from distribution, and it can try and do that with patents and the ITC. They can try and ban the Android from coming to the United States if they can have enough lawsuits and things filed against it. And that's their strategy now, to basically deny access by the main competition on the phone, on the general phone that is using an operating system of any type. And now what Apple is Apple is not within the control of Microsoft, but they have a licensing deal with Microsoft, so that's not much of an issue.
But what I think we'll do, because we did set a sort of semi-time limit, we'll just run through any other sort of topics now, because it seems that a lot of our shows end up to be a chat about Windows Phone 7 and the smartphone market. Is there any other points that you would like to raise, Gordon? Because while we've got you on the show, we sort of want to make the most of you. So anything that you'd like to add, anything you're currently working on, any other points you want to raise, or anything you've seen in the news that you want to bring up with on the audio cast?
Well, there's a couple of projects that I'm quite happy to come back on at a later date when the time's right to give you an exclusive, and I'll announce them on TechBytes. I don't really want to say anything about them just now. I mean, I've let you know in private message about one of them maybe. I'm an ideas guy. That's the downside. Is I'm an ideas guy. I come up with so many ideas, and I just don't have the time and the patience to sit and bring them to fruition. So I don't want to preempt that by announcing something and then. And then it kind of falls aside because I've just run out of energy for it. So we'll leave that for another day, I think.
Well, Gordon, I know I speak for all as well. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and it's been brilliant that the three-way conversations work so well as well. So obviously, anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome. I'm not saying that for the benefit of the listeners. I'm saying that for the benefit of myself and Roy, because I think it's been very good having a third person involved. it's certainly Roy. I'll pass over to you if there's anything you want to close with, and then we'll finish with my introduction of the theme tune, and that'll be it. So.
Yeah, well, this is the first show we do properly with 3 people involved. I don't think we've mentioned this at the beginning of the show. I just should say that if we have any volume imbalance, we'll try and correct this, but bear in mind this is the first show when we try to have 3 people simultaneously. On the first show we had Brandon, but the way we did it with Brandon, we basically separated into pairs, so I did the interview with Brandon separately, and then we pasted the things together. The second thing, as you probably know, and I've said it several times, we don't edit the show and we don't script the show. So what you hear is just basically the first go at all the topics. We don't have things written down or any set of questions set. So just something to bear in mind. In the future, also, if you know any person who's suitable and willing and should be on the show for whatever reason, we thought Gordon was the right person to be on the show, especially today, because Linux Mint is out and everyone's talking about this, especially in terms of reviews. And I think we did cover for at least half an hour where we went through all the special features about Mint and why you should use that. And so we're pretty happy to have this at the right time. If you know any other person who should go on the show and has we had some issues with people not having a good microphone. We tried with a few people who had some issues with microphone and didn't have them available, and they might have to borrow from a friend or something. If you have one and you have something you want to talk about, just get in contact in IRC or in the comments. We have lots of ways of communicating on OpenBytes. You can leave a comment and propose a time, and we should be able to arrange that.
Just one more thing that I forgot to mention earlier on about the Linux Mint thing is there's people who assume that Linux Mint, because they brought out a Debian edition, are moving to Debian. They are not. The main edition is going to continue to be Ubuntu based. The Debian is a sort of side project, if you like, testing the waters, I would imagine. Just to clear that up, because I've seen that more and more in comments about now there's a Debian edition. Oh, Mint are moving to Debian. Well, no, they're not. So without wanting to extend the show, just thought I'd clear that up.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to extend the show for a few seconds because I want to mention a useless fact here. I think we might have the record for the largest podcast or audiocast ever made, because according to my calculations here, it's covering 400 miles or 398 miles to be exact, from London to Roy, Manchester to you in Scotland. I was assuming I think I put Edinburgh just as a rough location for Scotland. So according to that, it's 398 miles. So I think that's got to be a record for the biggest UK-based podcast. I know the Linux Outlaws go across the water.
What about the Ubuntu UK? They have a sort of an acronym for it, but it reads like a Ubuntu UK one, and Pope is in it, and I think about 4 people.
Oh, right. Well, I don't spoil my moment. I was quite shocked with that. I thought we had a record. Well, we have a record for TechBytes. Then it's the biggest one for our show.
I was going to say. I noticed on the repeat of that. I noticed the little the disclaimer in there, UK based, because I was going to say Kernel Panic, which was formerly known as Linux Linux Cranks, which is an excellent show. If people want to check that out, Kernel Panic is a few American. It's an American sort of round table. With various people at Klaatu and Dan from Tilts and Chad and various other people. And one of the regulars on there is a dude called Peter64, who is in Australia. So that was America to Australia, and sometimes they have a Brit on as well. So I was going to correct you until you said UK based.
yeah. I sort of was quite busily backpedaling because then I was racking my brain. No, but it's the biggest biggest TechBytes audiocast in the UK. Gordon, it's been a pleasure.
Who's quibbling over useless trivia? Sorry, I'll shut up now and let you close the show.
Gordon, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. You're welcome anytime. Roy, obviously we'll be back together again very shortly. thank you very much, everybody, for listening, downloading the show. We're going to end on our usual track, which is I Fought the Troll by Tom Smith. You can find all his work at tomsmithonline.com. And all the things we've talked about, or as much as we can remember, will be on the show notes on mine and